Welcome into CBS Sports HQ. So some may argue this is just as good as Monday Night Football. That is looking forward to Ryan Wilson's latest mock draft. It is the first since we saw Trevor Lawrence throw at his pro day, which probably changed nothing with the Jags selecting him first overall. Beyond that, 4 teams targeting quarterbacks in the first round. The Bengals targeting a tight end. And by the way, the Steelers adding a running back in round 1 for the first time since 2008. Let's welcome in our draft expert, our good friend, Ryan Wilson. Ryan, let's talk pass catchers for right now. We're going to start with the Bengals selecting 5th overall. Now, last week you had them taking Heisman winner DeVonta Smith. This week it is Florida tight end Kyle Pitts making a jump from 15th to 5th. So how does he help the Bengals and why here?
Well, Amanda, Kyle Pitts, you could argue, is the best pass catcher in this draft class. You mentioned DeVonta Smith last week's guy who went to the Bengals. He weighs about 170 pounds, and that's going to be the concern with NFL teams in terms of where he's drafted. There's no doubting how good he is, but Kyle Pitts is 240 in that range. He's 6'6". He is technically a tight end, quote unquote, but he can line him up anywhere. He's a mismatch problem for days. They have Tyler Boyd, they have T. Higgins in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow's coming back from the ACL injury. Why not get him one more weapon if Penei Sewell, the offensive lineman, is already off the board? Clearly, the Bengals would love to bolster that offensive line and protect Joe Burrow. But second best case scenario, I guess, and it's not a bad consolation prize, is getting someone like Kyle Pitts to open up things not only in the red zone, but at every level of the field because he is that good.
Ryan, after the Bengals, the Eagles are on the clock with the 6th overall pick, and this is a pick that seemingly means a lot to them after losing to Washington in Week 17. So who do you have them taking here and why?
Ja'Marr Chase, and I think I'm done overthinking this. Like, I don't know what the Eagles' plans are. They may be trading Carson Wentz. It may not be going as fast as some people want, and Jason Lockenforth talked about that before on HQ. But I'm just saying, look, they tanked that game in Week 17 to go from number 9 to number 6, and they're just going to take a wide receiver. Whoever the best wide receiver is, that's who they're taking, and for me, that's Ja'Marr Chase. He was the best wide receiver on that LSU championship team in 2019, and that team also included Justin Jefferson. And that should tell you, give you a glimpse of just how good Ja'Marr Chase is. He opted out last season. No one cares. The LSU offense wasn't nearly as good without all those playmakers, so I don't think NFL teams are at all concerned that he didn't play in 2020. He is a game changer. He catches everything you throw to him. He's not a burner, but he finds ways to get open on just about every route he runs. And I think for the Eagles, whoever the quarterback ends up being, they need some help at wide receiver, and Ja'Marr Chase provides that.
Ryan, I'm very happy for your sanity that you have stopped overthinking what the Eagles are trying to do. This is very good. It's good for your mental health. All right, let's stay with the wide receivers here for a little bit. You point out in your article, by the way, people can find it at CBSSports.com, your rankings there, that Ja'Marr Chase is wide receiver 1 by a whisker, not a hair. You called it a whisker. We also have guys like JAYLEN, WADDLE, DeVonta Smith. So let's start with the winner, the Heisman winner, DeVonta Smith. Where does he go in this latest mock draft and why?
I'm going to the Giants, and the Giants need playmakers. There's no doubt about it. Evan Ingram still has 1 year left on his deal, but he's been a disappointment by just about every measure. Giants fans will certainly attest to as much. They need some help at wide receiver. Golden Tate's still there. Sterling Shepard's still there. Darius Slayton has been a nice surprise as a late-round draft pick. But if Daniel Jones is going to take the step to the next level, yes, bolstering the offensive line would be nice. But again, Penei Sewell's gone. If you don't want to take Rashawn Slater, why not get some weapons on the outside? DeVonta Smith is that guy. I mentioned earlier, he only weighs about 170 pounds. He's, by the way, nothing more irritating than people that say they can't gain weight. Come visit me. I'll help you gain some weight, DeVonta. But he was so skinny, he didn't even get weighed at the Senior Bowl, and that's something you rarely see. But there's no doubt about how good of a player he is, even if he is, quote unquote, slight of frame, because he plays so much bigger than that. He is constantly open. He makes tough catches that wide receivers that weigh 20, 30, 40 more pounds than he does struggle to make. Things like this. And I think Daniel Jones would certainly benefit from having someone who can get open all the time and make plays from just about anywhere on the field.
What's on the menu? How are you going to help him gain weight?
Easy. Ice cream and mac and cheese, problem solved. You're gaining 20 pounds in 2 weeks.
I like it. Dinner of champions. All right, let's move on to Smith's teammate, fellow wide receiver JAYLEN WADDLE. He could have been wide receiver 1 had he not gotten hurt. You have him heading to the Patriots at 15, so we had him on at the Super Bowl. He mentioned that a lot of people have talked to him about the Patriots. He said he felt like playing for Coach Belichick would be very similar to playing for Nick Saban. So why did you go with the Patriots here for WADDLE?
Yeah, there's that connection, which is a great connection. You also asked him about how fast he was, and he said that he and Henry Ruggs tied one time when they raced, and the other time that Henry beat him by a whisker again. So that tells you how fast he is. But again, the Patriots need wide receivers, and they've struggled to draft wide receivers in the first round. 2 years ago, N'Keal Harry was their first-round pick, who still hasn't quite reached that potential. He is nothing like Jaylen Waddle in terms of how he plays. Jaylen Waddle is a burner. He's only 5'10". He plays much bigger than that. He also gives you something in the return game. That's actually how he got hurt in that game against Tennessee in 2020. But he's an electric returner. But immediate, in my mind, he is better than Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs was the first wide receiver drafted in 2020. I think he's a better all-around player. He's more explosive, and he can come in right away and give a spark to an offense that New England desperately needs it.
We also asked him what corner he'd like to go up against in the NFL, and I loved his answer. He said his own teammate, Patrick Surtain, which I think is absolutely awesome. All right, we have gone through 3 wide receivers so far in the first round. Ryan, in your latest mock, you have 5 being selected, including Kadarius Toney at 29 to the Packers. But let's talk about Rondale Moore going 18th overall to the Dolphins. Another guy you say is undersized, but you also mentioned he could be the most dynamic player in this class.
He is so fun to watch, Amanda. And the problem is he's only played 7 games the last 2 seasons. That's the big issue with Rondale Moore. But if you go back to 2018, when he was at Purdue, he lit Ohio State on fire. That secondary had no answers for what he was able to do. Last year he played in 2020 against Minnesota. He might as well have been invisible because they didn't see him. He was running through that defense, making play after play after play. There's a social media video going around where he jumped. His vertical was 42 inches. That certainly gets your attention as someone who's 5'9" or 5'10". He is incredibly strong with the ball in his hands. He's not one of these small wide receivers that goes down upon first contact. He is a yak machine. So there are so many things to like about his game. And if you're Tua Tagovailoa, here's the deal. He doesn't have to run a lot of deep passes for you. You can run some quick screens, some pop passes. You get the ball out of your hand as Tua. Let Rondale Moore do the heavy lifting. And he's a guy that can come in right away and do that heavy lifting and make an immediate impact.
Ryan, walk us through who else you have the Dolphins selecting here in the first round, because it's quite a haul.
Right, so Penei Sewell, I had them going number 3 overall, and he solidifies that offensive line. In my mind, he's the best offensive tackle in this draft class. I think ideally the Dolphins would like to trade out of that pick, but assuming they don't, they could take a wide receiver, but it feels sort of early at number 3, especially when you can get someone like Penei Sewell to help protect Tua, who struggled at times in the pocket. I've had some of our coworkers, by the way, Dolphins fans, who hate the idea of taking an offensive lineman 3rd. It's in Tua's best interest. It's not a sexy pick. Maybe you trade down, like I said, but if you're sticking with Tua, you don't want a quarterback, and you're staying at 3, Penei Sewell makes a lot of sense. And then, of course, we just talked about Rondale Moore, giving some life and some electricity to that offense as a wide receiver.
Ryan, I was listening to you on the Pick 6 pod, so I'm going to use this as a tease for a segment when we talk about quarterbacks, because you mentioned you may like Mac Jones just a little bit more than Tua. So we're going to have to stick around and talk about that here in a second. But finally, let's head to the Steelers here, because you have them doing something they have not done since 2008. That is taking a running back in the first round. So who and why?
Yeah, so they're taking Najee Harris with that 24th pick. Rashad Mendenhall was the Illinois running back in 2008 who ended up getting drafted by the Steelers. Najee Harris we saw all what he did in 2020. He was actually in the Heisman competition because he earned it. And no one made themselves more money, perhaps maybe than his teammate Mac Jones, who we'll talk about, than Najee Harris, who came back in 2020 and had an outstanding season. Yeah, he can run over you like a mini Derrick Henry, but he also is great in terms of catching the ball out of the backfield. The Steelers, James Conner is going to be a free agent. Their running game was a disaster, not because of James Conner so much as the offensive line struggling. So they're set on fixing that. The Steelers have actually talked about that already, only a few weeks until the offseason. And Najee Harris, if he's there, and I know the Steelers like him, so if he's there, they will think about taking him. They may also try to target an offensive lineman or perhaps an edge rusher. But Najee Harris, if Big Ben is coming back, that's less pressure on Ben to have to throw the ball 5,000 times a game, which is what we saw him do for much of the second half of the 2020 season.
Ryan Wilson, mock draft number 24. Hang on just a second. We are still not done talking to you, because, yes, it is time for the quarterbacks. There are more than 20 teams at Trevor Lawrence's pro day. So does that change anything when it comes to him, and what other teams are trying to find their quarterback of the future in the first round? Coming up next. So Trevor Lawrence had his pro day, and tomorrow he will have surgery on his non-throwing arm. So did anything change? Yeah, no. More than 20 teams showed up to watch the Clemson Golden Boy throw, but as Ryan Wilson points out, it was probably a waste of time for pretty much all of them, unless, of course, you're Urban Meyer and you have the #1 overall pick in the upcoming draft. So Ryan Wilson's top 5 quarterbacks entering the draft. You see them there: Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trey Lance. But in what order do they go? And actually, which ones does Ryan like the most? All right, let's welcome back in Ryan Wilson. So let's start with Trevor Lawrence. We saw his pro day. I mean, the only thing is maybe he's a little bit lighter when it comes to his weight, nearly 6'6", 213. Obviously, you know, to feed him ice cream and mac and cheese, Ryan. But did anything change from that pro day?
No, just another young kid who can't gain weight that really super annoys me. But you're exactly right. I mean, there were 20-something teams there, and maybe you're watching Cornell Powell, the wide receiver for Clemson, who's going to get drafted, who's a really good player. But you're just sort of seeing what Trevor Lawrence looks like in person at that point, because Urban Meyer is in the driver's seat because he has the first overall pick. And I sort of joked after the pro day on Friday that Trevor Lawrence could have thrown every pass straight out of bounds, and he's still going to be the first overall pick. He's going to have that shoulder surgery on the non-throwing shoulder. That will not be a concern. And now the only issue becomes, what does his rookie season look like? Can he replicate what Justin Herbert did? And they're a lot similar in terms of their physical size and strength and playmaking abilities. Or will it be something more than that, which would be great news for the Jacksonville Jaguars, or something less than that? And I think that's basically the talking points going forward. Can the Jaguars surround him with good players with all those draft picks, and surround him with good players with all that cap space? And can the Jaguars, as Pete Prisco will tell you, can they make a legit run and win more games than they lose next year?
All right, Ryan, let's move on to Zach Wilson, because I feel, I mean, obviously during the season, you know, he was there in the conversation, and now it seems for a lot of people he is firmly in that #2 spot, the #2 quarterback in this draft. Is that where he is for you?
Yeah, he is, and it's actually sort of close. So he's listed as 6'2". I'll be interested to see how tall he really is. I think he's a little less than that. And you talk to some folks around the league, and they like a lot of what he did at BYU in 2020. 2019 was not a great year for him. Part of that was injury related, but 2020 was a lights out performance. You can argue about the lack of competition, but it's virtually the same competition Jordan Love faced the year before. The only difference is Jordan Love played terribly, and Jordan Love will tell you that. He told us that on HQ. Zach Wilson didn't have that problem. He made great decisions with the ball, incredibly accurate. There's some, like, he's a good athlete. Like, he's a Baker Mayfield type athlete. He's not Lamar Jackson or even Russ Wilson. But there's some concerns that his size may mean that he takes some unwanted hits that he doesn't need to take because he'll hold the ball too long. But that's sort of ticky-tack stuff. At the end of the day, I think he's a really good quarterback. And then the question becomes, do the Jets want to take him at 2? Or do they want to stick with Sam Darnold or trade down? And then when does he go? But he feels like a top 10 pick to me based on the way he played last season.
Ryan, I want to do a deep dive here into Mac Jones, because you've been pretty high on Mac Jones for a while now, and you've said repeatedly that the draft is going to be higher on him than the media will be or other people will be. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you mentioned on the Pick 6 pod, you said you like him a little bit more than Tua. So tell us your feelings on Mac Jones here.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, I do like him more than Tua coming out. And you talk to people around the Alabama program, and some of them will admit that Mac Jones was a better quarterback at Alabama than Tua. Tua's a slightly better athlete. But again, Tua is not Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray in terms of running around. He can buy time in the pocket. But the difference with Mac Jones is he's not going to buy a ton of time in the pocket, but he moves well inside the pocket. Sort of the same things we talk about Tom Brady to a much greater degree. He is extremely smart. He is rarely confused. He rarely holds the ball too long and takes sacks. The ball comes out quickly. If the first or second or third read isn't there, he's not afraid to check it down. We saw that during the championship game to Najee Harris on that swing touchdown pass. And those are the things he does well. The issue is he's a traditional pocket passer who 20 years ago would have been a top 5 pick. And this is not where the NFL is going. So you have to have an offense that can protect him on the offensive line. And you know, you can't ask him to do things that he's not physically capable of. But if you understand that, I think he has a chance to be a really good player. I know there are several teams in the league that consider him a top 15 pick, whereas the people in the media just see him with a shirt off, looking like a guy at the lake having a good time on a Saturday afternoon in the summer. But he's a really good football player. Don't be fooled by the dad bod. Mac Jones is really good. He showed it during the season. He went to the Senior Bowl and balled out. Their teams are like, why is he even here? He doesn't need to be here. He went there and played well and even improved his draft stock even more.
Hey, we all saw Tom Brady's, combine picture. That's a dad bod if there ever was one. Could Mac Jones be a starter though, or would you like him to have maybe another year or two under his belt sitting behind someone?
Oh, so in terms of quarterbacks that are most ready to play in the NFL, Trevor Lawrence is #1. Mac Jones is #2 for me. He is NFL ready. What you see is what you get. Is he going to get a ton better? I don't think so. We can talk about quarterbacks like Justin Fields who have the athleticism but not yet the experience. And I think Mac Jones, he will certainly get smarter the more he plays, but it's not like he's going to start running a 4.40. So I think in terms of being NFL ready, Mac Jones is right there for a guy you have to throw to the wolves, so to speak, right after Trevor Lawrence.
All right, Trevor Lawrence #1, #2, Mac Jones, NFL ready. A guy guy you mentioned in your latest mock draft that would probably need a little bit of time is, of course, Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields. So, Ryan, give me your profile of him and then maybe a team where he can find that sweet spot, where he can wait a little while and then start in a couple years.
Yeah, I like Justin Fields a lot. And there was a point early on in the season where he had as many touchdown passes as incompletions. That's how well he played. And I think our views of him get sort of skewed when we think about the Indiana game where he had 3 interceptions and there were some pretty bad interceptions, or the Northwestern game where he didn't play particularly well against a really well-coached Northwestern team. But, I mean, we see throws like this scattered throughout his resume, both this year and last season. And he does so many things well. He's incredibly athletic. He's had a scout say he's, quote-unquote, muscled up and he can run over guys. He's sort of like a mini Cam Newton in that sense. But there's so many things he does at a high level. He just doesn't have the experience. So I think the idea there is get him more experience by watching in year one. You can't throw him out there. And a great landing spot for me would be the Panthers. They have Teddy Bridgewater under contract for 2 more years. Certainly, definitely 1 more year. He's probably going to be the starter unless they land a quarterback that can play right away. But I think Justin Fields, that's a great situation for him. Sit behind Teddy for a year, learn the offense, learn the nuances of what it means to be an NFL quarterback. And then in 2020, he can start. And I suspect he's going to have a lot of success. He's just not a guy that can come in right away and be expected to carry a team, based on the fact that they only played 2 years at Ohio State, and he got a lot better from year 1 to year 2, but I think he needs 1 more year of just sort of learning and watching.
Ryan, your 5th-ranked quarterback in this draft is Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. Your last 2 mocks, you had him going to the Raiders, this week to Washington. So give me the case for and against Trey Lance.
Unlimited potential, upside through the roof. He's incredibly smart. He's quote-unquote today's NFL quarterback. He's athletic. He has a strong arm. He runs better than any quarterback in this draft class, and we see that's a big part of what NFL offenses do now with their quarterbacks. The problem is he only played 1 game this year in a showcase game against Central Arkansas that meant virtually nothing, because how much can you get out of 1 game over a 12-month span? The other issue is he played at FCS North Dakota State, which is a great program, but it's also a run-heavy program. He wasn't asked to do a whole bunch. Now, in 2019, he had, I think, 28 touchdowns and no interceptions. You see there 42 total touchdowns, including the rushing touchdowns. So that certainly gets your attention, but the level of competition isn't there, and he hasn't played it forever. So you can't, again, another guy you can't ask to come in and play a lot of football in 2021. But if you're willing to be patient, he's a guy that just, a lot of teams are going to like him for obvious reasons. So it's just a matter of how patient can you be as a coach or a GM, with the understanding that Trey Lance isn't going to be great in 2021, but 2022 and beyond, he could be a really special player.
Ryan, it is well documented. 1st-round picks, especially quarterbacks, of course, can be a huge hit or miss. Considering the man who just won his 7th Super Bowl ring was selected in the 6th round, 199th overall. So out of these top 5, maybe what are some other quarterbacks we should be keeping an eye on?
So, yeah, let's keep an eye on Jamie Newman. He played at Wake Forest in 2019. Then he transferred to Georgia, but he opted out right before the season. And I understand why players opt out, and that's certainly their right. But I was disappointed because I didn't want to see him play against some SEC talent. I wanted to see him play in an offense that wasn't sort of the slow mesh offense that they ran at Wake Forest, which was pretty simplistic. And I wanted to see how he did. We didn't get that opportunity, unfortunately. He did go to the Senior Bowl, and I'm sure he would tell you that he struggled. He didn't play as well as he wanted to. Some of that certainly could have been rust, but he has a lot of the physical tools NFL teams like. He can make a lot of the throws. He runs really well. The issue is consistency, and that's sort of the same issue with a lot of these college quarterbacks, and that's not a surprise. But play in and play out, he didn't always make the right decision in terms of getting through his reads. He sometimes struggled with the simple underneath and intermediate throws, which gets your attention as well. But then you see him lighted up throwing the ball deep, and he did that really well at times to Wake Forest also. So he's a day 3 guy for you right now, probably 4th-round pick. You're getting a high upside guy with a ton of athleticism, but it also needs to learn to grow into an NFL offense. And it's going to take some time after not only missing a year, but playing in a pretty simple system at Wake Forest the year before that.
All right, Ryan Wilson, thanks so much. By the way, you can check out his latest mock draft on CBSSports.com. You can also hear more from Ryan, a full 25 minutes today, actually, of his latest mock draft as he breaks down with Will Brinson. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.